All right. I'm going to, a little inspiration to start talking more about and attacking soldier issues and problems with my relationship coaching, at least with my channel. If you're not a soldier, it still can help and it still applies to you. You know, there's a lot of, basically, soldiers are dealing with the same issues and the same problems in their relationships. It gets exasperated by, their service. Okay, that's kind of all it is. There's people with PTSD trauma, not from deployments, but from childhood, and stuff like that. So, we're dealing with a lot of common things anyway. But I've recently gone through a whole bunch of losses, people killing themselves and stuff, and usually the relationship falling apart is behind it. I'm not saying, never kill yourself over a bitch, all right? But that's not going to be the reason you do it or are tempted to do it either. It's not because of the woman, it's because everything else starts falling apart. And then the last wall of defense or whatever, the last kind of thing that you have that ends up leaving you or falling apart too is that relationship. See, what happens is your work, your money, your relationship with your kid, a lot of this other stressors start coming in and they start falling. You start falling apart, and then that puts stress on the relationship, and then the relationship starts to fall apart, and then that ends up being the last draw, and then dudes self-select or whatever, kill themselves. So I feel like I have a calling here to kind of talk about that with the momentum I have with my channel, and there's going to be a lot more momentum on YouTube. And I'm helping regular couples out, coaching with dating relationships, pick up, all that kind of stuff, helping men out with dealing with being the best versions of themselves, and finding the woman that's going to work for them, and the relationship is going to work for them. I have a lot of knowledge and background in that, and I've coached a lot of soldiers, more soldiers than civilians probably. But the thing is, if you have PTSD problems, all the knowledge in the world isn't going to help you. You know what I mean? If you have trauma, all the knowledge in the world doesn't help. You have to address the trauma and address your reactions to that trauma and solve that problem. But I was going to wait a little while before doing a video like this. I recently went through my own losses, and I struggle with this as well. Most people in the military especially see me as a role model and see me as this, we could say, maybe a tougher guy, a guy who, gets shit done and all that. And I am, that's one side of it. But the other side of it is, I've been plagued with this, PTSD related trauma and anger issues, massive amounts of anger issues for a while. And it's ruined relationships of mine. It's ruined things for me, and of course, I'm fine. I'm recovered and doing very well and getting things in order. But a lot of guys don't, and a lot of guys fall apart. So yeah, it's just something that, I need to start talking more about. And an article, I came across probably the best article I've seen on the issues, and it really talks about it. So I'm going to link it in the comments in YouTube. This video is going up soon. I know I've neglected my channel for a couple weeks now, but we're going to get this video up on YouTube. Like it, share it, send it to people, because I'm going to do more of this stuff like this. And if I mess this one up, I'm going to redo the video. This is one thing I want to start working more on. So I'm going to read portions of the article, and then we're going to talk about it. It really resonated with me because it really spoke to exactly what happened to me, what was happening to me, and what happened to other people, okay? And also the other part is it's not all about me and my personal life. I'm not really gonna talk a bunch about my personal life, although there's parts of me that are definitely in here. But I just don't, I've had my own share of losses, and I don't want to waste that pain and that learning experience by not sharing it, especially considering I have a platform and people are looking to me for advice. You know what I mean? So and I need to share some of that stuff, maybe not to get completely personal online or anything like that, but it's not all about me, but it's I'm not going to waste the pain and the loss that I've experienced. Some of the pain and loss self-induced due to my own problems. I'm not going to waste it by not talking about it in a way that could help, hundreds or thousands of people, to be honestly with you. So we're going to keep this going. And so, other people might want to judge it or whatever, but, I don't care. All right. So I'll read the first part of the article. You came back different, changed. You can't really describe it, but you're not yourself. Not who you used to be. You're angry. Blow up at stupid shit. Lack other emotions. You feel numb. Disinterested in stuff that used to be interesting, tense, sleepless. Have nightmares that scare the hell out of you. Forget shit. Can't focus. You miss your buddies. You miss the war. You miss the ones you lost. You miss feeling like you used to feel before. All right. I want to state it's not just when you come home. In fact, usually it's not when you come home. All right? Usually it's later on. It usually comes in waves, or it'll come and it'll go away and come back again. All right? Because what happens is it's life stressors that will cause this PTSD wave of thinking and make you into somebody you're not. All right? And it can happen what seems like out of nowhere, but it's usually just with stressors. I went through this for about 6 months or so, a little longer than that, maybe 7 months, something like that. Now I got back from military training because I'm still training with the National Guard, and I run a business, and my business is lead-based with real estate, and I wasn't able to manage deals before I left, so it put me in a money problem, a money scenario. I'd gone through some other changes as well, and it put me in this scenario where things were not going well for me financially. I didn't have the stability I wanted. There were and it was for the first time that really happened to me. And so, I had a lot of uncertainty, and that uncertainty brought up for me anxiety. And it put me in an anxious state, and now it put me in this PTSD-ridden state. Now, all of a sudden, this generalized anxiety and anger started to show up, and it made me a bad, partner to my women. It made me a bad father. It made me a lot of bad things. And it wasn't who I was. It's just the trauma, that came out. And keep in mind, if you're a man and you're going through this, there's a ticking clock. And I'll talk about that at the end. But you're on a ticking clock before you lose everything. All right? Because this state, this negative mind state you get put in, you start getting pulled downward by, and it seems like everything you touch turns into shit. And then your relationship starts turning to shit because your partner ends up seeing it and she relies on you for stability. She relies on you to level up. She wants you to be, the person she met. And you're not that person right now. And so she starts to challenge you. She starts to try to control the situation. Sometimes she tries to help and be there, but other times she starts getting, her own anger starts stepping in. Her attraction starts to go away. And I don't mean sexual attraction, but just her wanting to be with you, her feelings of emotional security with you start to leave. And if she has trauma of her own, then it's much worse because she's used to being, screwed over or bad things happening to her. So now your state brings up all that trauma. So now she starts getting angry with you, and it starts causing a problem in your relationship. You're on a ticking clock. If you don't get help, if something doesn't happen, the relationship will be over. Because for women, forever doesn't mean anything, and the vow doesn't mean anything. I'm sorry, women, it's just the truth. When they say it, at the time that they say it, it's from the emotions at the time. But if things erode to a point, they will leave you. Make no mistake that that's what will happen, all right? So I only say that because guys think that their woman is a soft place to land and that they can overcome or get through anything, and that causes maybe a general complacency or stubbornness to not want to get help. But the reality is, she will be gone out the door. You'll lose that too. You'll lose your job. You'll lose your relationship with your kids. You'll start losing things. Okay, because as a man, you have the burden of performance. You have to perform or you lose. And the person that you're in love with, that you married, any of that stuff, she will go away from you eventually. She'll try to stick it out to a point, but she's on a ticking time clock. Okay? Some women are pretty strong and can try everything and stick it out for a year or two. Some are weaker, and they only got about a few months, you know? And so, some not even that long. So, it's all depends on the individual. But, you know, you just need to understand as a man especially, and as a woman too, but guys tend to stick to their commitments a little bit more. You know what I mean with that? That's just statistically true. I'm sorry, but it's true if you look at who initiates a divorce. So, you know, so a lot of times guys will want to protect and take care of their woman, but a woman is not designed to take care of you as a man. Not like that. So, we'll get more into the article, but you're on a ticking time bomb. You start, this starts to happen to you. You have to start getting help right away, and that'll be my point again at the end, okay? So from the article, sex, not the same. So now they get into the lack of sex drive and stuff, but what can actually happen too is a hyper sex drive, all right, depending on the person. All right, so I mean, for me, I'm kind of a hyper sex drive guy. No matter what happens, you know, no matter what's going on, I pretty much have sex. All right. Now that's not every person. That's just how I am. It's not always healthy either. By the way, it's not like the best answer. You know, to me, sex is a hammer and everything's a nail. Like I feel happy, sex; sad, sex; angry, we'll have sex. You know, like, you know, well, your partner might not be that way, right? Your partner might not be able to have sex when she's angry or anxious. It might not work that way for her, but, you know, but for me, it's like, yeah, you know, and so it depends on the person. But some people, and their sex drive goes away with this anxiety and this depression. So it depends. But I'll read from the article here. Is the biggest point of that. And the worst fear is that she'll get her needs met somewhere else. Okay, so when you get into a PTSD state, you know you're not yourself. You don't say to yourself, I'm in a PTSD state. Maybe I should go get counseling. It's not really like that. Because there's usually an outside trigger that causes the state. So you focus on the outside trigger. Well, shit, I'm not making the money I need to make right now. So that's the problem. That was my thing. I'm not making the money I need to make right now. So that's the problem. You know what I mean? I'd be in a better mood if I had the money I needed. You know? And it could be that. It could be, you know, whatever it is. You know what I mean? If this thing changed, if that thing changed, I'd be in a better mental state. So that's usually the story you tell yourself. And, you know, but you know you're not yourself because of that thing. And you watch the woman that you're with, your partner, she starts to look at you different and she starts to treat you different. And she still loves you at that point, but she starts to change because you've changed. And now that brings up a fear and an anxiety. And you start to really worry about, is she gonna leave me? Is she gonna cheat on me? Is she gonna do this? And you start getting possessive. Well, it's important to set standards in a relationship. If you're in monogamy, I'm not saying like she should be able to do whatever the hell she wants and, you know, and you should just let her do it. Like she can go hang out and sleep at guys' houses she doesn't know, that you don't know, and do all kinds of weird crap. None of that stuff's okay, but you certainly don't need to be possessive about it. You know what I mean? And you certainly don't need to be angry about it and hyper worried about it and not giving her credit for the good things she's doing, which tends to happen because you're so anxious and so worried that she's going to go away. You've had friends kill themselves. You've had people die in combat. You've watched, you've had so many losses, and you're waiting for the next loss, and you've put your trust in this person and your love in this person, and now there's a paranoia that they're going to go away. And it's not logical. In your head, it's just a chick. I can get another chick. But it's not that way, Like emotionally, that. And it's like you're going to lose them if you keep this up. But you can't stop. So you start to get worse. The anxiety kicks in. And you worry that she's going to replace you. And then that causes a lot of, possessive and controlling behaviors. Anytime she's not 100%, anytime she shit tests you, anytime she does something that might bring up a question whether she's got other intentions, you'll lose your fucking mind. And then that of course puts more wedges, more rifts in the relationship. All right? And she starts to, and women don't help you here. Women will hurt you here because they will get insecure about you, and then they will start doing more of the behaviors. If she shit tests you and acts, calls you a name or treats you with disrespect, and you get worried that she is disrespecting you because she's going to leave you, and you get angry with her, and you start disrespecting her, then she's going to just do more disrespect to you. You know what I mean? And you guys are going to clash. It's going to be like oil and water. And I've seen it happen. I've experienced it, and I've seen it happen all the time. And you have these fights, and I know other soldiers can jump in and say what they got to say about it, but you have these fights and this shit that you end up in. You know what I mean? Got a good comment. Thanks, bro. So, I'll move into. Okay, sorry, more. She looks at you differently, like you were a man, not some exasperating child. She has no clue that you're barely holding it together, how dark your thoughts get, how you wonder if you just might snap, how you imagine killing again and how good that would feel right now. She tries to be supportive, but she's angry too. Why can't she understand that you don't want to be this way? So, all right, the killing thing is fodder for an article, because honestly, like some of us have, some of us haven't. There's only 1 out of every 9 soldiers actually rip a trigger and blow somebody away. All right, that even as a job description. Okay, and then there's a number of combat arms people that don't even have that opportunity. So it's not so much like every soldier's going over and killing. And I make that point only because there's a lot of soldiers that go through this that never squeeze the trigger in anger in their life. So I don't want that too often in these discussions, we don't include those soldiers, and that's not fair because they still went in harm's way to do a different job. And they still went through the stressors of the deployments and the being away from home and then returning and then having to deal with the same issues, you know what I mean? Honestly, for most of us that had to squeeze triggers, we're pretty fucking happy when we did it. Not to be psycho, but it's just, they were bad people. It wasn't like these Vietnam scenarios where, there's kids involved necessarily. I mean, you have those incidences, but for most of us, it's not the firefights that cause this stuff. You know what I mean? Not usually, unless you lost a buddy like right next to you or some of those things that happen. But, I'm just saying the majority. So I don't want to make it about that killing, okay? But you definitely want to be yourself again. You want to be back to where you were the best. You were the fucking best. I gotta try not to F-bomb because YouTube will demonetize and make it so my video is not searchable. So that's the last F-bomb I'm allowed. but yet you want to be the best, and you were the best somewhere. Didn't matter what you were doing, whether you were an 88 Mike, you truck driving around, or maintenance, or whether you were a shooter, you were the best, you felt that way for most of you. And so now you're home, and now everything's falling apart, and your partner is looking at you like you're not the best anymore. And she tries to tell you all the great things. She may get you, do things for you, take you places, maybe write lovely letters or notes, maybe post awesome stuff about you on social media, or she might be doing things to cherish you because in that moment she feels that way, because you're not this way all the time. But then it's those other moments where you're not yourself, and she's looking at you like, this isn't the man I fell for. And you know it, and you can't stop it. And you want to help her to understand, but you don't even understand. All you're doing is watching everything around you fall apart. And everything you've ever worked for, fought for, including your relationship, crumbles. Next one. This is very somber. I want to crack a joke because that's how I deal with stress. When you don't remember, she gets frustrated, as if you could remember if you just tried harder. Why can't you realize that part of your brain that's supposed to remember is gone? Effing gone. Trying harder isn't an option. Okay, that's another thing that would really tripped me out. I thought maybe it was just getting older, okay? But your memory all of a sudden is crap now, And so you can't remember things, even conversations. When you get in that angry state, you don't even know what you did. And it's crippling. And then you don't know, and if she has trauma and anger too, which she will, okay? She will, because you're not the man that she bet on. She's gonna be angry too, and now both of you, your versions of the same story are different. You don't know if you're being gaslighted, and you might be being gaslighted. You can't defend against it because your memory sucks. You see, it's because of that stress, and those stress chemicals causes a problem with your short-term memory and those connections. This is scientific now, okay? And for her, she just thinks you don't care because you don't remember things for her. You don't remember things about her. You're not attentive to her. She thinks you don't care about her, but you love her. You care about her more than anybody in the world, But you can see her going away from you, and now she tells you how often you don't care about her. You never cared about her, and those things come out in arguments. And it makes you angry because the way that you learn to handle stress, the way that you learn to handle not just stress but problems is through aggression. See, depending on your role as a soldier in combat, you use aggression to solve problems. I use aggression to solve problems. And you know what? Aggression is a great problem solver. It's one of the best problem solver. Violence solves problems, to tell you the truth, but it's not always, not everything's a nail and not everything's a hammer, like with the sex thing. It's not always the answer, and actually most of the time it's not. And in a relationship, it never is. But you see things going away, and you get aggressive because you want to stop it, and you want to stop her from doing what she's doing, which is devaluing you and potentially getting ready to leave your ass, right? So you're trying to hold on, and you can't remember stuff. You can't remember what you just said. You can't remember things the way you want to, and then she's changing stories on you now too, maybe, but you don't know. It's really a mind F. If anything, it gets to a point where you don't know what's real, what's not real anymore. You don't know if she is setting you up to screw you over or not. See, now that PTSD thinking starts kicking in a little bit, where everyone's out to screw you. Everyone's going to get you. You got to watch your back because nobody's going to watch your back but you. Your buddies aren't around to watch your back anymore. They're retired, they're fat and happy somewhere, or they're still serving off on another deployment, or whatever it may be. You can't figure it out. So you got to look after yourself. And man, everyone's out to screw you, especially your woman. And she's not, but that's what steps in. As your memory fades and fails due to the stress and the anger, and then she's drifting away more and more. Doesn't she know you miss you too? That no one ever prepared you for this, that all the training in the world never prepared you for this life now, that most of the time you are barely here, that you never wanted to be a burden to her, that you hate knowing she's carrying all of the load. Yeah, so she starts picking up more of your slack. She starts taking care of you. She's maybe making money, trying to make sure bills are taken care of because if one of your problems is financial, she's trying to step up. She's trying to do stuff. But every time she does that, she gets more stressed. And then she gets more resentful and angry at you and controlling towards you now because she's now doing more than what she should. So she tries to be controlling towards you because she doesn't see you as capable anymore. So now she's going to make sure that she takes care of you like you're a kid, and it's demeaning. And so you feel very inadequate, and you're then, as she tries to control because she doesn't trust you, and she's belittling you, and part of it because she wants you to step up, you start yelling. And a lot of things then happen to. You start worrying that she is going to go away. You start putting on airs. You start acting, like nothing's wrong in public. Social media is a good outlet for a lot of people. They'll act like everything's good, nothing's wrong. And you start doing weird behaviors now because you think that your relationship's going away as she tries to control more and more. Maybe you're liking some chicks' posts and stuff, or maybe you're giving a little bit more attention to other females. That can happen too, flirting and so forth, because you think that she doesn't value you and she's going to go away. But it's all putting on a mask. It's all putting on a face because you're falling apart and you need help, but you don't understand that you need help, and you don't understand that she wants to help you, because for everything she does to help, everything she does to try to take care of things, it's followed with anger, it's followed with control, it's followed with unkind words towards you, degrading, disrespectful language, things like that, fights, because she's uncertain and she's not in her role now, and you're not in your role, and everything's falling apart. And the more trauma she has, the less strong she is, the weaker she is, the worse it is. And then it just keeps going. But you hate it because you don't want to put that on her. Crap. What just happened? I lost my thing. There we go. All right. Hold on. Find it. There we go. Okay. All right. I read on. You watch her. She is so beautiful. You don't know how she does it all, how she puts up with you. You wish you could tell her. You wish you could feel beyond the consuming rage. You wish you could make her know that you're just lost and broken and you don't know what to do. That all this time you've been strong, holding it inside, putting on a brave face because you had to, and falling apart wasn't an option because you couldn't breathe while you were gone. Okay. Yeah, so now as things are getting, it starts off one way and it gets worse and worse and worse. And then towards the end of it, you start thinking, God, Like, I don't understand why she puts up with me. I don't understand why she's with me. Because you know you're not yourself anymore and you don't know what to do. And you feel bad. And she's not doing everything right either. She's not perfect. You're not perfect. She's not perfect. But you start taking the blame for everything that she does that she shouldn't do. But then you get angry again. And you think better off if she's without you. You know, throughout this process, there might be a lot of leaving too, a lot of just escaping, a lot of running. Because when you get into a toxic argument, it's actually healthy to separate yourself in a toxic argument. You know, to say, hey, we need to take 20 minutes. Or, hey, we need to take like 2 hours. You know, I'm going to go to the gym. You do whatever you need to do. Let's talk later tonight. You don't want to go to bed angry. But to take yourself in a healthy way out of a tense situation, if the conversation's gotten unproductive where she's not listening to you and you're not listening to her, it's actually healthy to stop for a minute. But to do so out of anger or in a way that makes her feel like you're leaving her, period, or she doesn't know where you're going or any of that stuff, that can be really toxic, you know? And so that's a lot of what'll happen too, because you start feeling like she's better off without you. You know, that's what you feel like because you're not you anymore. You know you is somewhere in there, but you don't know what's going on. It's only if you made more money. It's only if you got over this problem or that problem, or if you had custody of your kids again. You see what I mean? It's always the external thing. You're focused on if only. And sometimes it's her. If only she would stop attacking me. If only she would stop, like trying to control me, and she would, start listening to me again. So you start thinking it's that external thing. But the reality is it's this traumatic way of thinking that has dragged you into this place. You're relating to each other based on the last version you knew of each other, and it doesn't work. He's changed, she changed. So where do you go from here? Okay. You're not different, okay? You're different. Well, I'll put it like this. You are not your trauma. You are not your trauma. You are not your PTSD way of thinking. That is not who you are. If she's got trauma and she's being a total a-hole to you, that's not who she is. That's her trauma talking. You have to address the trauma so you can be yourself again and then be a better version of yourself. And so does she. Okay? So you start, that's from the article, you start by looking at your relationship today and decide together that you are not each other's enemy. That if you are going to make it, you are going to have to be on the same team, standing side by side, looking at the world together. All right, this brings into this point that love is a choice. It's not an emotion or a feeling. Attraction and arousal is a feeling. Anger and repulsion is also a feeling, okay? When I coach people in relationships and they're trying to work out a relationship, I look to see first if the biological arousal and attraction is there. Because that's the part that biology takes care of for you. A lot of times people will settle into relationships when they don't have that arousal for the person. But they're a good person. You know what I mean? That person loves them. And women do this all the time. They'll settle with a guy they're not that attracted to, but he loves her and he's emotionally supportive and, he's going in a good place and he'd be a good dad. They make that choice and then they're unhappy because they've experienced someone who is more arousing in their past. Or they experience people that are more arousing and attractive in the current. So for a relationship to really be happy and work, the biology has to fit. That's what we call chemistry, okay? Because it's literally chemistry. It's the chemicals in your brain, it's your pheromones, it's your facial symmetry, it's the way your sexual market value and their sexual market value matching. It's you guys being a good match, all right? Biologically, genetically. So that's the part that's not a choice. That's either there or it's not there. But if you had mad attraction for the other person and they had crazy attraction for you, and at the time anyways, there wasn't, the arousal was high, right? And higher, particularly higher than anybody you or she has experienced, then that part is already taken care of. That's the biology part. And if you believe in a God or a higher power, that's God making you two a good fit. That's the God made you two to be together kind of a thing, okay? Made you two as a good fit, all right? Now the rest though is a choice. So if that part took care of itself, but the relationship degraded due to trauma, due to problems, two people that choose to love each other can solve any problem. Two people that make the choice to love each other and stay together because they know that they were, and maybe still are even, aroused by each other. And they want each other. They want the person they met maybe, right? If they want that, they can figure it out. Because there's counseling, there's therapy, there's all different kinds of options out there to heal you and make you better than your trauma, make you better than you were before. You just have to be able to stick it out. You have to make a choice, and you look at that other person that she's hated you now at this point, she's been angry with you, and you look at her and you decide that we're not leaving no matter what. We're not letting anything get between us or another person. We're going to be together, we're going to work it out. You make the choice, and then you start doing the work. That's the other part. You can't not do the work, okay? You have to have empathy for the other person and sympathy too. Get into that here. So from the article, you start by stepping back to realize the extent of what you have each been through. This means the layers of fear, grief, exhaustion, the depth of emotion that is held within you, and you find a way to gently release it. Write, paint, journal, cry. If you can't talk to each other about the parts you want to know, you want each other to know, then message each other, write each other a letter. You start by realizing you will never fully know the parts of each other that hurt the most. So that's really important, because there's this tendency where one person's like, you don't know what I'm going through, you don't know my trauma. And then she could be like that, and you're sitting there going, well, you don't know my trauma, you don't know what I'm going through. Well, guess what? You're both right. Both of you don't know what it felt like to be in those shoes. Both of you don't know what it felt like to be the other person in that situation. You didn't know. You don't know. So you talk about each other, you listen, you try to tell each other. You do it in a way, though, that's not accusatory. You did this to me, kind of stuff. It's communication, and you might need therapy, counseling, a mediator to help you guys communicate the stuff that's there, the stuff that's been hard for both of you. But so you have to have empathy for the other person. You have to have sympathy for the other person. That means that you're not sitting there seeing everything that they've done as the most terrible thing that everything's terrible. What tends to happen is the other person, when their emotions start to go away, especially if they're emotionally immature, they will see everything you've ever done for them as terrible. They will twist everything you do as being bad. They will see you as a shit person. They will cut you down. It'll be nonstop, And that's the thing. And you may have done that to her because of your anger and your trauma. So she has anger and trauma too. That's why she's doing it to you. You both need to decide. Again, decide. Nut up and decide. Decide to not do that anymore, and decide to be on the same side, and decide to listen to the other person. Don't just sit there and say, you don't listen to me, and then talk and not listen to them. Both of you decide to get on the same page and make a decision. And if you can't do it, you're still not leaving. You're going to go seek somebody out. Maybe it's a pastor, maybe it's a priest, maybe it's a counselor, maybe it's a therapist, maybe it's a support group. You seek a mediator because the communication is broken or compromised between you two. But it doesn't mean that you don't choose to love each other. It means you figure it out. You be strong, you don't be weak, and you figure it out. You recognize that each of you are grieving, and you give yourselves permission to grieve. You start by deciding to be gentle with yourself and kind to each other. Again, you decide to be kind to her, even if she's not being kind to you. Because the reality is she's broken now. She's damaged because you maybe have damaged her. She maybe was damaged already, and now you damaged her more, okay? So she's gonna be mad at you. She's gonna maybe wanna not be on your side. And so you need to be kind to her. And if she leaves, she leaves. You need to be compassionate to her, okay? Because it's not just about you. When you have PTSD breakdown, it affects everyone. It affects your family. It affects you. When I had my problem, I wasn't in touch with my mother the way I usually was. I wasn't a good dad. I mean, I was okay. Tried to be there, but in my head, I wasn't present. I wasn't a good man. The only thing I was actually good at during that time period was coaching and my business. In that role, I could step out of it and be there. But everywhere else, I was not present. You start to fail everywhere. And it affects everyone around you, so it's not just about you. And that's the one thing to understand, is that when you're in that mode of thinking, you're very selfish. When you're in dealing with trauma, you're selfish. Because all you see is you. All you see is your perspective. You don't see what you're doing to the other person. And so you have to start healing, and you have to start going and getting some help. And then you start seeing the other person's perspective. And you don't want to beat yourself up over what you've done, which is going to be hard not to do and hard not to feel like guilt. But what you do want to do is you have to have compassion for the other person. From the article, you start by choosing to believe that love is stronger than death. Again, love is a choice. And you reach out for support. Okay. Love is stronger than death. It's stronger than the deaths you've experienced in your family, with your friends, on deployments, off deployments. Love is also more powerful than the deaths of your relationship, the deaths of previous traumas and things that you've dealt with. Your love needs to be stronger than that, and that has to be a choice. That's not an accident. That's not a thing that just comes out of nowhere. That's something you choose. And then the last part of the article here. And sometimes you start by understanding that not every marriage has the foundation to bear the weight of war. And if that happens and your heart breaks, you are not to blame. There is nothing in this world that proves that human beings should be stronger than the destructive weight of war. Sometimes a marriage just won't be. Okay. That last part's really important because if you're going through this, statistically speaking, she will leave you. Understand that statistically speaking, she will not be strong enough to stick around. She will quit on you. She will leave you. She will cheat on you. She will go to another dude. She will put her energy into other people. She will feel too traumatized by your relationship that she will purposely and intentionally break the bond you have. She will no longer feel love towards you. That is what happens most of the time, okay, she will abandon you. As soldiers or police or EMTs or even just men out there in the world, we wear our armor. We put up our defense so we can fight, so we can earn, so we can help other people. And when we get home, we want to take that armor off. You know, especially if you've seen a lot of destruction, a lot of hate. You've been through it. Maybe you had a traumatic childhood yourself. And you've seen and experienced all of the bad things that are out there. You just want a place to take your armor off and a soft place to land. And most of you are going to look to your relationship for that. She is not that. She will tell you she wants to be that. She will try. She will do her best. But she will fail eventually if you can't get it together. And she will quit on you. And that's the reality of it. And she will abandon you. And you took your armor off. You gave her every part of yourself, even the worst parts, and now she's gone. And she will try to replace you. You're not replaceable, but she will try. And she will rationalize how it was the right decision. She will try to save face in front of others, but she will rationalize how you're a bad or shitty person and that was what needed to happen. It's textbook. This isn't just me and my stuff and my bullshit either, by the way. That has nothing to do with that. This is from dealing with soldiers and soldier problems in their relationships and watching it happen time and time again. Some women, like I said, are stronger than others, can stick it out for longer. But if something doesn't happen, she will go away. So, ask yourself if it's worth it. If it's worth not getting the help. If it's worth not recognizing that you have a problem early. Because if you don't and you're not aware, you will lose it. You will lose everything. You will lose her. And then you may think about, or you might want to, even if you don't do it, kill yourself. Because that's what soldiers are often faced with and often do. And that's what men do. Men do it 5 to 1. Men to women. Women do it, men are 5 to 1. More suicides are completed by men at a 5 to 1 ratio than women. So don't be in that spot if you lose to lose everything. But let's say you are. Let's say you did. Let's say you didn't get help in time. Let's say she wasn't strong enough to be there and make the choice to love you. Don't resent her for it. Don't be mad at her. Even if she did some terrible things to you. Just the act of leaving is terrible enough, but even if she did terrible things on the way out, like mate switching, like using another dude sexually or emotionally, for example, and making you feel completely abandoned. Even if she did that, she's not a bad person, okay? She just wasn't the one for you. She wasn't strong enough to handle you and your demons. So get the help and get hold of those things, and guess what? You'll get with the person who was strong enough, who is strong enough, who's better. That's the one blessing we have as men, is that we can always find something better around the corner. The unfortunate thing is women have a bigger struggle with that. They really do. And it's just the way it is. That's why I have a lot of sympathy for women who are trying out there and not finding what they want. But as men, if one doesn't work out, we can find what we want right around the corner. And you'll never replace that person, but it doesn't matter. You'll find something better. Maybe somebody who, if she left you or if she's not with you because of this problem, she couldn't stick it out. She couldn't be there for you to get help. She wanted to wait at the finish line for the prizes rather than go through the struggle. That's okay. Because there'll be somebody who's willing to be there, and that'll be better. All right? So don't self-select. Don't kill yourself. But get help. Get help. Because even if, the person you're with isn't that strong and would go away from you if push came to shove, it's not like you're sitting there and you want that to happen, right? You chose her for a reason. So choose to get help. Choose to handle your shit. Don't take your armor off and expect her to deal with your bullshit. You need to deal with it yourself with support groups, with me, okay? Hit me up. I'm a coach, all right? I've been through the shit and I've helped people through it. With therapists, with counselors that are good, not shitty ones. There's different types of therapy out there that's really good too, really good at reconditioning the brain. And if, by the way, if you don't have PTSD, you're not a soldier, but you're just somebody who has a lot of trauma, you have issues, that's okay. These things can help you too. Get a hold of me for some resources and get a hold of this stuff. Now I'm gonna link in here a link to the article, and I'll link into a really good type of therapy a good friend sent me that will help recondition your brain. But there's other stuff out there too. So just, and there'll be more videos like this. This is a bit long. I hope you made it through. In our soundbite culture, people don't want to sit through videos like this, but this is something that, I don't know, that you probably need. All right? Or a friend of yours needs it. So like the video, share it. When you see it on YouTube, subscribe, okay? And share it with your friends. We're gonna do more stuff like this. I'm gonna use my platform more than I have in the past to point people who have these kinds of issues to some help. Because I'm a little bit tired, rather a lot bit tired of friends of mine putting guns to their heads. All right? So, thanks again for tuning in. Have a great day.